I've turned into a craft beer snob, as they say, so I'm okay with spending a couple extra bucks from time to time.
Okay, so now I know what your new nickname is going to be.
Oh, geez.
Oh, yeah.
I should have just kept my mouth shut.
You probably should have, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
thanks for the invite, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
Hello, Ted.
Hey,
Oh, man.
Dan is in, and Bob Young is in. And who am I missing? Yep, I did see Tom. Okay. Did I see Mike? No, not yet. Okay. Linda, have you heard from either Brad or Mike Moore?
I have not. I haven't not heard from anyone that they could not attend.
Okay,
tonight.
I did hear from
Mike Moore
Greg.
was here.
I'm sorry?
Mike Moore was on, but I don't see him now.
I thought
That's
I-
right.
I
Yeah,
thought
he was
I-
on for a minute.
Yeah. Okay, so he's, I'm sure, planning on coming back. And I think Brad is still unable to attend.
Yeah, I did talk to Brad the other day. He was hoping he could make it.
Okay,
So,
all right. Well, I know the circumstances, so. All right, well, in the interest of getting done before midnight, haha,
Oh, thank you.
I thought I would try that, yes. I am going to go ahead and open up the Budget Committee quarterly meeting of April 21st with the following statement. As chair of the Northwood Budget Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing the Zoom platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the Budget Committee have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through details located on our website and posted outside the town hall. If for any reason you cannot join or listen to this meeting, please call 942-5586, extension 2005. And I'm hoping that the storm is now past us and we won't have to lose, or we won't be losing anybody as a result of it. So we will do a roll call for the record. So Betsy?
Here.
Tom?
here,
I thought you were. Dan?
here,
Steve?
Here.
Betty?
Here.
Paul?
Here.
Ted?
here,
I know you were here. I saw you. Pam?
Here.
Brian?
here,
Bob?
here,
Eric?
Here.
Mike Jobin?
here.
I am here. Brad Hall, I believe, will be excused unless he's able to join us shortly. Grace Mattern is excused. And I believe Mike Moore was probably trying to get back in with us. So we'll see when he's able to join us since he was here initially. So first order of business is for me to shut off my iPad. Excuse me, guys. Wants to let me know when MUR has a special thing going. Okay, so first order of business per our agenda. Oh, and I do want to make note that Walter Johnson is joining us, our town administrator, as well as Cheryl Eastman, our finance person. Welcome to both of you.
Here.
Brad, you made it.
Just barely.
That's great.
Sorry about being late.
Nope, you're fine. I just finished the roll, so you're good. Okay, so according to our agenda, we have minutes to review. You'll notice that the minutes of January 13th are back on here. The reason for that is after I got back going through them again, I realized that the conversation that we had on the 13th regarding the fire command vehicle, Mike Moore had brought up the question before we left the work session and rejoined the public hearing for the water district. He had asked about the fire command vehicle article, which was not listed. We had a 12-minute conversation because I went back through the recording. Susan, it started at a minute 25 in and went to a minute 37. As you recall, we had a fairly lengthy and conversation regarding why the article was no longer there and the fact that the selectmen had decided to purchase it out of surplus. I believe that that discussion needs to be in our minutes.
Okay, I'll put it in.
Well, we'll see what the rest of the committee thinks.
Need to vote on it though, yeah.
Right.
I second.
Well, I can't make the motion because I'm chair. So if someone
Motion
else would
to
like to,
approve the minutes of January 13th.
I'm sorry.
as corrected. Motion to approve the minutes of January 13th as amended.
No, I think what we've got to do is make a motion to have Susan go back, listen to the tape and
Okay,
redo them and send them to us when they're done so that at our next meeting, we can review and hopefully accept them as re-amended.
okay. So moved.
Do we have a second?
I did.
Thanks, Betsy. Is there any further discussion on it? Does everyone understand where I was going with that? Okay, if everybody is good with it, we'll do our roll call. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Abstain.
Okay. Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am a yes, and I haven't seen Mike Moore pop back in yet. So if anybody sees him and I don't, please shout out.
I just tried to leave a message at his home
phone number and see if he can rejoin us. I'm not sure that that got through. It may be he's having technical difficulties.
Yeah, it could very well be. Yeah. Okay, I just want to make sure I got the right number here. 1, 2, 3. Yep, I do. Okay, so the vote on that was 1301. So our next set of minutes are the minutes from the 27th.
Motion to approve the minutes of January 27th.
Okay, we have a Betty made the motion, Betsy seconded. Are there any corrections, additions?
I have one, Madam Chair. I'm listed as absent but showing up, so I don't know how
That's
it works.
because initially you were absent and then later on page 2, we noticed that you joined us.
So
So
do
we
I need a tardy
probably
slip?
should put that you just move you to the end with the time that you arrived. Does that make sense?
It's okay with
It's on
me. I
there.
just needed a
It
tardy
says,
slip.
it says he came at 7:59.
Right, but it's still showing on the front page, excused as absent. The other thing that I noted on page 2, for the minutes of December 9th, Betty made the motion to approve the minutes of December 7th. It should be December 9th. The next one, December 12th, Betty made the motion to approve the minutes of December 9th, should be December 12th. And that's all I had. Any other questions or additional changes? Okay, seeing none. 127. We'll do our roll call. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes,
Brad?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes,
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Abstain.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. Bob?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am a yes.
if Bob is abstaining because, whoever abstained.
Brian abstained.
Brian.
And because Brian wasn't there, Eric wasn't there either, but he's voting. Shall we?
You
I didn't even
can-
think of that. I'm sorry.
It's
You
okay.
can, there's
And-
no rule that says you can't vote. But if you don't feel comfortable approving minutes that you weren't at the meeting to hear, then you can certainly abstain. Some people may have watched the video but couldn't make the meeting. You know, so it's entirely up to you. Eric, what do you want to do?
I'll abstain if that was the right call. Absolutely.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
As Jiminy Cricket said, always let your conscience be your guide.
Oh, you're showing your age, Tom.
Or his Netflix preferences.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Betsy?
After Susan reviews that, can she send us just the page where she's adding that so that we're not 6 months out before we see it to approve it? Just email it maybe?
Yeah, that's what she said, told me to do. Right? I mean, that's what I was
Okay.
gonna do. So I assumed you. That's
Yeah,
what you said.
that way, we've already been 3 months since, and I had to refresh my memory by going back and looking at the video again, which is how I got the times and all. So I think that would be good, Susan, if you could, once you get that part of the
I'm
draft
sorry.
done. if
I
you
thought
could-
you told me to do that, so I just assumed I was going to do it.
Cool. It works. Okay, next on our agenda, Brian, my friend.
Good evening, guys, girls, ladies, gentlemen, folks. And I should have just said folks from the beginning. Nice to see you all. I'm glad you're here. I know the agenda just goes right to the quarterly financials, but if it's okay with you guys, I'd just like to do a bit of an update for general school board information.
Perfect.
And then I'll get into that other stuff. So the school board has named Nathan Byrne as the superintendent of schools for next year.
Very good.
Yeah, that happened last week. So we're excited to be working with Nathan. You guys likely all recognize his name. He's the current student services director. He was at our work session meeting in December. He's been in the district for a number of years now. So we're excited about that. The school this week is transitioning to 5 days of face-to-face learning in compliance with the governor's mandate. Previously, for March 22nd, we had transitioned to a 4-to-1 model for kindergarten, first grade, second grade. And then on April 5th, we had gone to the 4-to-1 model for 3rd through 8th grade. In order to allow that to happen, we contracted with the Florida Global Academy, as well as Edgenuity, which are 2 remote learning academies. We're still the school of record for those students, but they deliver instruction. And that's because we were unable to provide full remote instruction and full face-to-face instruction models with our current staff. So we contracted those 2 companies. The estimate given at the time was somewhere in the neighborhood of $70,000. That was for an estimate of about 20% of our students. We learned at our last school board meeting that the numbers of students enrolled in that's a little bit lower. So we don't have a number yet for what we're spending on that, but it'll be less than what was originally estimated because there's less students participating in it. That is being funded primarily through our ESSER 2 funds, for which Northwood is receiving about $169,000. So that's helping to offset that cost. And that was also, those dates where we were transitioning back were also because we held 2 vaccine clinics for staff and anyone working in the school, bus drivers, kitchen staff, anyone related to the school, substitutes, all that. Also participating in our vaccine clinics for Co-Brown Academy and I think the Stratford School and perhaps some other area schools jumped on as well. Obviously, Bob Young had a lot more to do with that than I did, but we're excited that was able to take place at the Northwood School. So our teachers and staff that wanted to get the vaccine at this point are considered fully vaccinated from that. So that's great. Obviously, we have the deliberative session tomorrow evening. I would love to see all of you there supporting the budget. I know you all recommended it, so it'd just be great to come out again and vote in favor of it tomorrow. So that's tomorrow starting at 6. And that's pretty much, I think, what I have for sort of budget related, but not totally budget related information. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them, and then I'll go on to the expenditure reports and whatnot.
Okay, I do have one, Brian. I just want to clarify that the roughly 20% of students, those are students that weren't comfortable with coming back in school.
Yeah,
So that's how they're being provided.
Correct. I can't say what their motivation is, but when we were doing 2 days in person and 2 days remote, there were some students that were doing fully remote and not coming in for those 2 days of face-to-face. That was roughly 20% of students. We assumed that those students would continue fully remote as we offered the 4 days in person. And that I think was originally, that's what we surveyed parents and whatnot, and that's what came back. But I think what happened was after starting the remote with these new academies, the Florida Global Academy and the Edgenuity, some students and parents felt that it wasn't a fit and they'd rather come in. So they started doing that. And so I don't know exactly what our numbers are because it's still settling in at this point. But we had planned for about 20% of students to be participating in those virtual academies. And it's, I think we heard it was more like 11% at the last meeting. So.
Okay. And the 4-in-1 plan, I'm going on the presumption that's 4 days in, 1 day out.
Correct.
And is there a particular day that nobody's at school, or does it depend upon grade level?
That was, it stopped this week, but that was up until this week. Friday was what we call the flex day. And that allowed for students to catch up on work. It allowed for a lot of the meetings to happen around special ed and whatever things to take place without it impacting students' time in the classroom. And some of the planning time that we can't give to teachers that we have to give by contract, we were doing then. With the mandated 5 days a week, we are, the teachers are going beyond their contract language to make that happen, so.
Okay, so you are now beginning this week, 5 days in.
That's correct, yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sure.
Does anyone else have any questions for Brian? Tom?
I'm assuming, Brian, that this is the deliberative session is not a Zoom meeting.
That is correct.
That it's going to be in the gym with people spread to the four corners.
Well, it depends on how many people will be there. People will be spread by 6 feet by design of the chair layout. We do still have a mask mandate at the school, and we do have a mask-free area for people to participate. The plan for now is to set up sort of like a massive Zoom call. I don't know if it's Zoom, so I shouldn't say that, but to set up an audio visual link to the courtyard, with the backup being the library if the weather is not conducive to people being in the courtyard for that time.
That ought to prove interesting.
Yeah, it's a challenge, so no doubt about that.
Yeah. Betsy?
I thought I heard Steve Roberts say it was going to be live streamed.
Probably. I think you're correct, but there was a question about if people would be able to call in and participate remotely, and that's not allowed.
No, it was just the live stream.
Yeah, I believe it will be live stream. We've been live streaming all of the meetings, so I think that's kind of just become the habit. And I believe he said he was intending to live stream the deliberative session as well.
Okay. Any other questions for Brian before we really pummel him? Betty?
Brian, I will be there tomorrow night in spirit. I can't be there physically because I have a planning board meeting.
Oh, bummer. Yeah. Well, thank you for your spiritual support. I appreciate it.
Okay, I guess you're good to go, Brian, with
great. So
overviews and all.
Yeah, so the expenditure report, I'll just start with the bottom number because I know that's one of the items. So it's listed here as $832,302. That's definitely going to come down. I have spoken with Mr. Waring, and after a few other things, he's estimating a surplus budget of between $425,000 and $475,000. So we're not there yet. One of the other things was I know the budget committee wanted to see a surplus wish list. We we've asked the administration to make surplus request for our May 1st, or our first meeting in May. I don't think it's actually May 1st, but so that's coming up. I don't have that for you tonight because we haven't received it from the administration yet, because we haven't asked them for it until this last meeting. So that's that. I do have a number of lines. Mr. Warren gives us at the board a report that is items that are over by $1,000 and an explanation for them. So if I read through those and the numbers, that might answer some questions that people had marked down before you ask them. So I do see a question, Ginger, if you want to take it.
Betsy?
Can we go page by page and do
Yeah.
those, Brian, as we go or not?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to, I started to mark it up. So, but yeah, we could do it that way if you'd like.
If we could try to do it as much page by page as possible, Brian, I think that'll be easier for everybody to follow along.
Okay, so if I get too far, if I go over page 1, let me know, and then I'll stop. I'll try to stop with what I have. So the standout ones that I think are going to be kind of interesting, the teacher salaries is over. We're researching that. We haven't gotten an answer, but HR is researching why there's an encumbrance there. I assume there's a miscalculation there that they're trying to figure out. Health insurance is that was because of plan changes, so that's accounted for. Dental insurance, their HR is researching that one. Retirement certified, it's another one there that HR is researching. Am I still on page 1?
Yep.
Okay. Health insurance buyouts, that comes from the plan changes. That line 5290, sorry. Tuition for other public schools in the high school, that's based on a student need. That's over by $3,253. That's a student need.
Okay, which line was that one again, Brian?
That
Can you give us the
01,
account?
yeah, the 0111005561 and then 002.
61. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. And then going down 5641, classroom textbooks, that was for kindergarten, first grade, second grade. And I believe that was additional materials for when we were in remote learning that they were sending home.
Yeah, they were sending a lot of stuff home for some of the grades, because I remember seeing people pick up packets and drop packets off.
Exactly.
Yep.
The count 5737 and then 000. Yeah, that's still on this page. So replacement furniture, that was a bookcase and a storage unit. And then 5110, the 1200. So that's going to be the next page. I'll stop there for now. If there's any more questions on page 1.
Any questions on page 1, Betsy?
One question and one comment. The comment is the top 3 lines, which was pointed out the last school board meeting. That's just kind of a grant parking lot right now.
Yep.
And then new equipment music, there's a 1100 encumbered there. Any idea what that's for? Down near the bottom.
No, I don't know. New equipment music. So I
Equipment
see
of some sort.
on my copy, I see $140 encumbered. That's replacement equipment. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong line. I don't know what that is, but I can find out.
My guess
Brian,
is now that
Paul,
people are back in, they're going to be playing instruments. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't go into a deficit budget, so it could just be that it was a delayed purchase at this point, but we can check.
Okay. Any other questions on page 1?
Yeah, Paul Tudor.
Yes, Paul.
Hey, I just noticed Co-Brown's running under budget by about 10 students. Is that because 10 have gone to homeschooling, or do you know?
I'm not sure if it's homeschooling, but I do know that the rates of students at Co-Brown, the numbers are down. Some of it might be they've gone to private school, and I think we have enrollment numbers, so I do can look at the high school.
The high school stayed the same.
Homeschool numbers.
181.
Yeah, I take it back. It went down by 1 from the previous month.
So it's down from when we, what we budgeted for
Right.
sure.
Any other questions on page 1? Okay, seeing none. Brian, the 1200 account?
Okay, let me see where it was. 1,200. So this is special education para salaries. And the note is, again, they're researching it. HR is looking into it. Special education speech pathology, that's 5110004. Same answer. Their HR is looking into it. Extended school year salaries, that's 5120 and then 800. And that is being offset with account 5100800. So 5100800. I don't have the note right there, but I think we see a surplus there probably. That's why that's offset.
Okay.
Health insurance buyout, that's 5211001. And that's again employee changes. Plan changes. Retirement certified, which is 5232040. That says that's offset with account 5100.800.
Yeah. Regular ed versus special. Yep.
Okay. The special education tuition at Co-Brown, that's 5563000. That's based on student need. The new equipment, that's 5733000. That it says it's a desk and shields and plexiglass. Co-curricular, that's 5110000. That was additional stipends that we're paying out for before and after supervision because of our bus shortage. I think the same thing with the science camp stipends. It's
Okay, so we've just moved to page 3.
Okay, I'll stop there.
Anybody have any questions on page 2? Betsy?
5 and 6 lines up from the bottom, the special ed software,
Yep.
those are over, but there's encumbrances in there. So is that for students out on remote?
I don't know if it's specifically for students who are remote, and I'm not sure why it's over. It's not over by $1,000, so I don't have a note on it. But I can have them look into that. So that's line. Is it the elementary and the high school that you want to know on?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll look into
Any
it.
other questions on page 2? Okay, we're all set for page 3, Brian.
Thank you. Okay, so the science camp stipends, that's the same thing. That's being used to, it's being overexpended because of our bus shortage. We have students who are arriving early because we're doing double bus runs and we need supervision for them. We're paying staff to do that. Guidance salary, that's 5110000. HR is researching that. Same thing with the retirement, that's 5232000.
Yep.
The nurse's salary, again.
Okay, we're at the end of page 3.
Okay.
Anybody have anything on page 3? Betsy?
One of my questions is, why are we charging to the science camp stipend line and not to you know, a Paraline or something like that.
I don't know why it's going to the science line. I know that they're coming out of co-curricular because they're on paper, they're being considered as an additional activity.
So then should they all be under co-curricular in that science camp? I assume science camp isn't happening.
That's correct. We're not sending students to science camp this year. And again, yeah, I would think that it would all come out of co-curricular rather than being split up.
Make more
between.
sense where the other one's kind of sensitive. The other question I have is athletic supplies midway down.
Okay.
It's 3,800 encumbered.
Are you asking what they're purchasing?
But it's just kind of late in the year where you haven't done much with athletic stuff, to have a $3,800 encumbrance sitting there. So I guess, yes, what is it?
Yeah, I can't say specifically. I do know they are doing spring sports, baseball and softball. So it may be related to those programs, but I don't know specifically what that's encumbrance is for.
Anything else on page 3? Okay, moving up. Pam, did you have something?
Nope.
Pam, did you have a question, Pam? No? Okay.
I think her video kind of glitches and she just happened to move her hand kind of
Oh,
around.
okay. All right. Page 4.
All right, going down my list. So the nurse's salary, it says additional stipends for COVID. Certified nursing. So the next few, we, as you guys are aware, we added a medical assistant position. So a number of the lines are over there. So this would be for the certified nursing assistant, because that was a zero. That wasn't an item before. The nurse health line, that's 5211000. That's related to having an additional person, an additional staff member. 5212000. That's nurse dental insurance, same thing. 5220000, nurse FICA. 5232000, nurse retirement. And then the health supplies line, 5600000, that's for PPE and COVID expenditures. Moving on to speech, 5110000. HR is researching the overage in the salary there. Am I still on page 4?
Yep, you are.
Great, thank you. No, sorry, the speech health, 5211000. That was an employee plan change. The library salary is being researched.
Okay, that's a whole different page. Do
Okay.
you have anything for curriculum director?
I don't have a note here.
That's the 2212 lines.
I don't have any notes on my
Okay, then
here
we can stop
from-
here. Anyone with questions on page 4? Okay, don't see anything. So page 5 begins with the library. So
Okay.
you mentioned librarian.
Yeah, the library salary, that's 5110. It's showing a deficit of $1,646. That is being researched by HR. The library aid salary, the same thing. It's it's over by 1,316. It's being researched by HR. The software line, this is 5650000. That it says Chrome license and Go Guardian, which is one of the software programs that they use. The new technology new equipment, that's 5734000. That is it says CARES / ESSER 1 covered cost. So that I think that what that means is that it'll be recovered through that program. A technology replacement equipment, that's 5738000. That says a purchase of 100 Chromebooks. And that was due to remote learning and doing one-to-one with students at home. Secretary wages, this is 5110004. HR is researching.
Okay, I'm gonna hold you there.
Thank you.
You don't have anything for the school board stuff, right? 'Cause that's the
No.
bottom of page 5. This is school board salaries, travel reimbursement, your expenses.
Nope, I don't have,
That's it.
you don't have any, no, my notes are, the notes that I'm sharing are the ones that are in a deficit of $1,000 or more.
Okay,
So
okay.
that's what the report is, and I'm reading,
Okay.
and I'm just sharing off of, so.
So does anyone have any questions on page 5? Okay, seeing none, we can go to page 6, which has school district secretary and clerk, the treasurer, elections, SAU. And then it starts with the principal's office, which continues on to the next page.
Awesome.
So those are just the sections, so you have an idea.
All right, so I'll try to stop before, I have some notes on custodial stuff. I'll try to stop before then. On the secretarial wages, that's being researched. Again, there's, a number of those, so that's why they're there. That was line 5110004. The retirement non-certified, that's line 5231000. That's another one that's being researched. 5531000 telephones, that's over by 3800, and that says it's reclassing $4,883 to the internet service line, which is 22255643. And then I get into custodial stuff, so I'll stop here.
Okay, so we'll stop there. Does anybody have any questions on page 6? Betsy?
In the middle of the SAU, you might want to check that encumbrance because it shouldn't have the 92,000 left.
Okay, one more time. What about, which line for
Okay,
the
SAU district assessment,
About the middle of the page.
5312000, middle of the page.
Okay, so there should be the 92,700 should be encumbered at this point.
Yes.
Okay, I'll definitely check it.
Anything else on page 6? Okay, seeing none, moving on to page 7, which gets us into custodial and grounds and that kind of stuff.
Okay, so I have a few that are because the board added a custodial position. So the custodial salaries line is over due to adding a position. The custodial health insurance for non-certified is over because of that custodial FICA, and custodial retirement. Those are all because we have added a position.
Okay.
The repairs and maintenance line, that's 5430001. That's over $26,369. That was that was because of unanticipated boiler repairs.
That boiler.
Yep. I would love to be a little greener and cheaper, but maybe in the future. The custodial supplies line, that's 5610000. That's UVC V1. That's a light, UV light filtration.
That's the light you were talking about previously for
Correct.
sanitizing.
Yes, it's I haven't seen it, but it's a light, it's a cart that gets carted from room to room and sterilizes the room with UV light. And the note there is that it's offset by executive order number 38.
Okay.
So that's helpful. The replacement equipment line, that's 5735000. That was for water bottle filters instead of regular drink filters. Not filter, what's the word I'm thinking of? Bubblers. The water fountains. Students aren't drinking just out of the water fountain, so we replace them with the automatic ones that fill up the water bottles.
Gotcha.
That's what that equipment is. And then the last one that I have a note on is contracted services for fire alarm. That's 5430000, and it said that we needed to replace a booster panel.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on page 7? Okay, seeing none. You don't have anything for page 8, which is the transportation and whatever, correct, Brian?
I don't have any notes from Glenn. I'm happy
Okay.
to take any questions though.
Okay, so on page 8, any questions? Betsy?
Encumbrances on the transportation line right at the top, high school and elementary.
Yep.
There appears to be something wrong with those numbers. They're awful high compared to looking at what you've spent for the year and stuff. So it was
Yeah, I
probably
would
encumbered
agree.
as the full amount, but we only have 3 buses instead of 6. That
Yep,
should
I
be
would agree.
changed.
I agree with that. Absolutely. We're not paying for the bus runs that we're not getting. So
And the same comment on the special ed section right underneath it, elementary and high school. Same thing.
on transportation. Okay, thank you.
Anything else on page 8? In that case, we're done with the financial statement.
Great.
So you have your enrollment figures, which we've alluded to a little earlier. Total between K through 12 is down 7 students compared to last month. But overall, the numbers look pretty much the same.
Yeah, we're down a little more than at the K through 8 level. We're down a little bit from last year. We had right around the deliberative session, we had peaked over 400.
Right.
I mean, we're anticipating, we know that we lost some students to private schools when we were remote. We're anticipating some of them to come back. We don't know at this point how many or not. But yeah, we're definitely watching enrollment and trying to budget. Well, as you guys know, trying to budget with that is a challenge because hopefully things get back to normal, but until they do.
Right. Any questions from anyone regarding enrollments? Okay, seeing none.
I want to just go back to the final page of the monthly expenditure report where you noted that as you kick this off, that it looks like there may be a $800,000 plus surplus. And you said, but that's probably going to go down.
Yeah.
Sort of curious, is it going to go down by $100,000? Is it going to go down by?
The numbers that I asked Mr. Waring this roughly a month ago, and the number that he projected at that time for the surplus, he felt that it would fall in the range of $425,000 to $475,000. So at that time, though, I'll just note the budget balance was projected at 700,000 something. So it's actually been projected to go up since about a month ago, and I haven't asked him this question again. That's the number he gave me about a month ago. So,
But the bottom line is, at least you're not looking at a deficit situation.
Yay.
Right. Well, it would be a complete shock and surprise to everyone if it doesn't appear that we're in danger of a deficit at all. But it is definitely the case that the number that's there is not the final number. It will likely go down. So
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Any other questions back on the financial statement? Okay. Seeing none, the latest special ed report for the out-of-district placements, when I spoke with the SAU about that, because we hadn't gotten it in our packet initially, I was informed that the report that we got in December is the same. There have been no changes.
I have if you'd like me to, Ms. Stoll, I have a copy of the numbers that were in our March 18th board packet that I can just read down through, or I can share the document, actually pull it up if you want me to share my screen.
What's the committee's preference? You're going to just read off the numbers of, I gotta see where my old stuff was.
I would encourage sharing your screen, since reading a list of numbers and not knowing how to total them up would be, so if you can do that quickly.
Good point, Tom. Yes, Betsy.
Can that be sent to us along with, there is no revenue report here, and it's the same with the town. Anytime we ask for an expense report, it should be understood automatic that we want the revenue as well. So we need the revenue report sent to us.
Brian, that might be an easier idea, is if you could ask Mary or someone to send out, and I did speak with her about the revenue report after we got the first packet. Glenn wasn't in the office that day, so she couldn't get something. So perhaps the revenue report, as well as the last special ed report that the board got last month, if those could be sent out to us, that would be great.
Sure, I can make that request.
Thank you. Let's see. And we've already talked about, we got the audit in one packet and the management letter for the school a day or two later. What's the wish of the committee? Do you want to review the school's management letter now, or if you've not had an opportunity to really peruse it, we can do it at our next meeting? What's your thoughts?
Do we need to formally approve that or?
No,
take
it's
it- okay.
informational for us. It's only informational for us, Ted.
Okay, because it looks like they did a super job. The auditors were thorough and quite complimentary. There are some new accounting changes that ripple through everybody's GASB rules, but it looks like the school's in solid shape from what I can see.
So is the general feeling that we'll bypass it for this evening, and those who haven't reviewed it can take the time to review it, and if there are any questions or concerns about what's being done, what's been instituted, or whatever, we can address it at our next meeting, or open to suggestions, guys.
Sure, we can revisit it. That's fine.
Sound good to everybody else?
Yes.
Nod yes. Okay, so.
I'm nodding, but you can't see me.
Who's that?
Mike Moore, sorry, my internet went out just as the meeting started, so I've been on the phone.
I understand completely, and I thought that might be you, but I wasn't 100% sure. So now I know the number, so I know it's you. Okay. We've already talked about, end of the year things, and the school really hasn't discussed those yet. You don't have any potential issues that the board is looking at for the end of this year, not judging
No,
by
we
the
don't.
size of the surplus you anticipate having.
No, we don't have any. I mean, our issues are kind of logistics, dealing with trying to keep people safe, the school dealing with having a bus driver shortage, but we don't have any financial issues that have come to our attention. It doesn't look like it looking at the surplus either. So
Doesn't look like you have to replace the entire heating system or the entire roof or anything like that right now.
no, I know the roof is part of the capital improvement plan, but not
Right.
for a few more years at least. So
Okay. All right. Well, if Bob,
I was just going to say, I mean, if we're putting off the review of the audit, there are just a few things that did show up in the letter that was presented. And I was just wondering if Brian could bring comments regarding those to that meeting and when we bring it up again.
oh,
Like, for example,
absolutely.
the idea of not maintaining capital asset listing, what happened as a result of the recommendations of the auditors.
sure.
Great.
Yep. Excellent idea. Okay. We also received from the school a very nice Excel worksheet explaining the COVID-19 expenses, just for our general information. And it's done monthly. So beginning with April of 2020, going through May, August, September, October, November, December, and on the backside, this year's expenses, and breaking it down into special ed, software, custodial, food, bus transportation, etc. I found this really helpful to understand where the additional expenses because of this thing called COVID is costing everybody, whether it be local, state, federal government. So thank you very much for whomever keeps that up and prepares it. I think they did a great job with that.
Sure, I'll pass that along. It was started with Mr. Rooning, and Mr. Waring's been maintaining it. So I'll pass that along.
Thank you. Betsy?
Yeah, very nicely done. Question I had is, do you feel that most of the COVID money coming in is going to cover the extra COVID expenses?
We are in the ESSER 1 funds. We received somewhere around $20,000. In ESSER 2, we're receiving closer to $169,000. So that ESSER 2 is helping out obviously a lot more. So in ESSER 2, I believe does not have it doesn't have to be spent by the end of this fiscal year. I think it goes through next fiscal year as well. So. Yeah. That gives us quite a bit more breathing room, and we're very appreciative of it. So,
Very good.
On the same note, the food service being paid for, picked up by the state, should ease some of that as well.
Right, that's a good point.
Tom?
Can I ask, in addition to these dollar costs of COVID, are there other costs being incurred by the school, such as people decided they don't want to do this anymore and they're going to hang it up? Other possibly hard to measure ways in which, while it hasn't cost us dollars, it certainly cost us in other hard to put, other ways. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah,
And
I mean,
we have other educators on this call, and they may be able to also enlighten us as to what some of those costs, non-monetary costs are.
Sure. I mean, we've had one resignation for the end of the year, not a mid-year resignation, but we've had one mid-year, end of year resignation. I can't say for sure that it's COVID related or not. We had one last year. We had a teacher after going through the spring that retired earlier than I think she had planned on, and that I think was directly due to COVID. So obviously it's hard. It's been, I think, just a tough year where things keep changing, and people just keep trying to do their best to follow guidance and keep students and staff safe. Currently going into the reason the board didn't push into a 5-day student schedule before the governor mandated it was because we just don't have enough staff to be able to spread students out at the times, like for meal times and through other times throughout the day, to be able to spread students out and supervise them and to meet the contractual requirements of like lunchtime and planning time. So we definitely have teachers, because of the mandate, we have teachers doing beyond their contracted hours, beyond their contracted language, to do double duties and taking really, skipping out lunch or skipping out on planning time. I think because the board has contracted out with the remote learning academies, I think that helps a little bit, because the teachers who are doing face-to-face, that's what they're doing. That's, what they've been trained to do. That's the kind of teachers that they are. And that's what their focus is solely now. So hopefully that helps. And there is obviously a financial cost to that. So other than that, I mean, qualitatively, I don't know, everybody's dealing with their own level of anxiety or not. I'm personally feeling better knowing that vaccines are becoming more and more available and to people who want them, and that summer's coming. But I don't know, some people might not feel that way. Some people might have vaccine hesitancy for some reason. So yeah, it's obviously none of us have ever been through a pandemic before, and definitely the Northwood staff is doing what they can to help each other through it, and the school board's doing what we can to make it reasonable for everyone. So
thanks, Brian.
I talk too much. I'm sorry, guys.
No, you're not talking too much. That's great. We haven't heard from you in so long. It's nice to hear you.
This is the most important thing we do in Northwood, which is to educate our children.
That's right.
That's a personal opinion. I mean, other people may
Coming from a
disagree.
teacher, I would expect that. Yes.
As a parent, the most
That
important
too.
thing that Northwood did for me was to educate Gabrielle so that she now is practicing veterinary medicine.
There you
And
go.
I had nothing to do with that. And, the elementary school in Co-Brown and Smith College and Cornell get all the credit. So I'm very eager to hear, while the dollars are really important, to know that the school board is supporting the administration, that the administration is supporting the teachers, and that people are hanging in there and doing the best they can under very difficult circumstances.
Right.
So take all the time you want to tell me the good news.
There you go. Okay, I think we're all set with the school. So now we can move on to the town. So we'll start off with the quarterly statement, the 2021 expenditure report.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Is it okay if I speak at this point?
Of course.
Thank you.
Go right ahead, Pam.
I'd like to start off by saying that the selectmen and the staff at the town hall, coming through this past year with COVID, going through the changeover in staffing, changeover in how things are done, changeover in many, many forms and formats, are really full weight. And as a teacher, I'd like to thank Brian for the compassion. Nice to know that the school board feels like we do, that teachers and staff, that it's tough for all of us.
Mhm.
But it's also tough for our town employees and our town staff, as well as budget committees and all the committees functioning. It's been a lot of strain. So we have to keep that in mind, and we have to understand that whilst some things may not be exactly to point perfect liking at this point, they will get that way with advisory, with working together, and with also accepting that some changes have to occur. So with that, going on into the 2021 expenditure report, you're going to see that Cheryl Eastman, our new financial director, and what we're looking at might seem a little unusual to you guys, but it's kind of a nifty format for the moment. But to the right-hand side, she's noted overall reductions or overall increases. With at the end of the page, on page 23, noting the deficit there of 860, partly because we don't have a budget yet. So you've got an overall increase of 103,000, largely a result of timing of payments, including mutual aid of 46,569, auditing of 12,875, software license payments of 26,251. The remainder is a combination of new benefited positions for the 2021 highway, tax collector department, unplanned vehicle repairs, snow and ice removal costs. So this is what you're seeing on your quarterly report. And if you'd like to go back to page 1, I do not have a line by line clarity on overage or under at this point. We can try to field it, and I do have Cheryl and Walter here with me if there's a specific that you are interested in. So on page 1, if you can all see it clearly, if you would like to ask your question.
First of all, I would like to point out to the committee, in case you missed it, and this is one thing that I've already spoken with Walter and Cheryl about. The last year period, the first column in the financial statement is only showing January 1st to March 31st. And as we all know, we generally see the full previous year there as opposed to just whatever quarter we happen to be in.
And
when we get our next financial statement, I would anticipate that it'll show the full year.
I also will say that Ginger has offered to come in, meet with Cheryl to try to, find more about, well, I mean, it's hard for Cheryl that when you're used to seeing one thing, you got somebody new come in, there was no changeover, no cross training between the old, the new.
Right.
So you're going to have these changes. Same thing as I want to make a side note about the COVID report earlier in 2020, maybe mid-range 2020, when Catherine was doing the Gopher and COVID funds, you were seeing that kind of itemized Excel. So we would hopefully get back to that. As it is, you now have the full packet on COVID. So these are not, they're not dubious mistakes. They're merely having nothing else to go by. The
Yeah,
staffing
it's a work in progress. And
So-
this is the first time that we've not had an adopted budget that was confirmed by vote.
Absolutely. So
So
I'm
that's
not
going to be
seeing-
added after we get go through the voting, so.
So I'm not seeing a lot of on page 1, down under town administrator line, you've maybe got an increase of 1,324 over the same period last year. And again, moderator lines, nothing much to look. You're going to be anticipating, I believe, let me see, we're going to be anticipating that these insurance lines are going to spike as the changes come into effect from the state retirement plans and retirement. So you're going to be seeing for 2021 is like a 21,694 due to increase in state retirement rates for the second half of 2021. So you're going to be seeing some changes occurring
Right.
in these margins. So I'm over
Okay.
on to page 2. Does anybody want anything on page 1?
Yeah, we're gonna go, Betsy, you've had your hand up?
Things. One, I concur with Ginger. I want to see the first column be the full year on any reports we get. That's what we're used to. I fully understand what Cheryl's doing, and I think it's wonderful, but will we have the last 2 years of 2019 and 2020? There's no way you can keep track of what was paid when, where, or what. It was a disaster. So going forward, that would be great. But you can't go by that now because of the last 2 years. So I understand what she's trying to do, compare quarters, which would be great going forward. But in any reports we do, we want the full year on there, please.
Duly noted.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions on page 1? Okay, let's move on to page 2. And by the way, Cheryl, I would like to say thank you very much for the notes on the sides, because that does help quite a bit, and even more so as we get further into the year, you know, when things get changing and odds and ends and whatever. And that's the kind of thing that we used to get 3, 4, 5 years ago. And as Betsy mentioned, things have been quite different at the previous 2 years. So this is a nice start back toward making it easier for all of us, because if there are notes there, then chances are most of our questions can be answered by the notes that are supplied to us.
Right. Yeah.
So,
On
so I
page
wanted to
2,
thank you. I'm sorry, Pam, go ahead.
I'm going to be rushing through a little bit. As a school teacher and with the governor's mandate, I've about had it up to here with the whole, this week has just been awful.
Okay, so we'll go through page by page.
If I rush through, I'm a little bit pressed for time, that's all. If we look at page 2, I think you're going to find your big reduction up here in executive office contracted services. As we are way down on contracted services because we were using quite a bit last year due to short staffing. So I think that big reduction is in there. Other than that, I don't really see anything that stands out. Does anybody have question on this?
Betsy?
I just have a quick question. Is the 2200, is that the town report printing? In the middle, under print off, executive office printing and advertising?
Printing, advertising, 2200 expenditure. Maybe Cheryl could field that.
Yes. Yes, it is.
That's the
Okay,
town
that's what I thought.
report? Right.
Thanks.
Anything else on page 2?
Good question.
Okay, seeing nothing. How about page 3?
Page 3, you've got that reduction on registration because of the delay town meeting. Coming down through also the delay in the town meeting. And then we've got this up on finance administrator salary because of the wages coming in, as we now do have a finance director and change over there, and insurance expenses are recorded. So they moved, Cheryl, is that correct? They moved the line over to 41555.
That's correct. In all the departments this
Right.
year, the insurance expenses are all under personnel administration.
Yeah, they tried to do that last year as well, Cheryl, but there were still a couple of departments for some reason that never got transferred over. So the bulk of them did go. But I do have a question on the finance salary. That your notation here that in 2020, the only wages were in January as opposed to the first full months. I'm trying to remember, and unfortunately, Walter, you won't be able to help either, but maybe somebody else on the committee can remember when we made the changes. Never mind, I'll research that myself. Never mind, we won't spend time on it now. Anything else on page 3? Okay, seeing nothing. Any questions from anyone on page 4?
On page 4, you've got nice explanations off to the right.
Yep.
Particularly that overall increase of 6,000. Finance administration, we have a different finance director.
Right.
We also in audit services, increase of 12,875 due to the timing of the invoices. Again, sometimes you're going to see a difference that is only due to timing of payment and invoice. So 2020 expenses were recorded in September.
And that's a
opposed to
prime
March.
example, Pam, of why it's far more beneficial to have the full year, the previous year, to relate to what's
Sure.
being spent now, because it takes into consideration that timing and whatever.
Sure, and I think here was the best intention, so we
Oh,
duly
yeah.
noted.
Yep, absolutely.
Again, timing of invoices coming in for January and February increased the monthly cost, so that's why you've got the 12,000 versus 3,700.
Right.
The overall line is at 9,000 increase, but that is a lot explained above. Coming into the tax collector town clerk, you've got a pay increase over the 2020, new benefit for the department, combination of Avatar and Interware software. So the 2020 costs were paid in 2019.
Right. Betsy, you had a question on page 4?
Just another comment to comparing quarters to quarters. This past year with COVID, I'm sure a lot of stuff didn't come in time. So that's another thing that kind of throws that off as well. So another reason for comparing just the whole year.
Right.
Yeah, I understand what she's doing and going forward, you know, for the reports for the selectmen stuff. That's great, but it doesn't really work too well for us.
Again, duly noted.
Okay, any other questions on page 4? Okay, let's go on to page 5.
5 has got the rest of the town collector, tax collector, and town clerk. You can see an overall increase in 19,435. And again, you're looking up at the overall differences. Yeah, you know, again, as been pointed out, hard to say if this is a worry or not. I think it's just early. We don't have all that we need at this point. Down into treasurer, increase of 701. Yay, treasurer. And budget administration, and nobody can argue with that line.
Right, because we didn't do anything with it.
Thank you.
Because we paid for our own, because we thought you were going to be in a deficit situation. Anyway, that's another story for another day. Page 6.
Okay. Trustee of the trust fund, you've got an increase of $64 there. And reductions coming down through personal administration. There is a huge change here, 52,710. In 2020, insurance costs were allocated to individual departments. In 2021, they're combined under 41552, personal administration. And Cheryl has just mentioned that when we talked about the earlier insurance drop on an earlier line where everything has been moved to this line. And then we have 34,000 there, which is savings as a result of credit balance from 2020. And this is on workman's comp. Down into the overall personnel administration of 90,000 down, which is an increase of 46,000. Majority of this is the reallocation of the health and dental costs from the individual department budgets. And that we're going to see on and on. Again, contracted services, we've got increase here, which is the land use secretary, cell phone expenses encumbered from 2020 were all paid here. So anybody want further explanation over here on this?
Yeah, that last line, the land use secretary's cell phone and expenses encumbered from 2020 were paid out of 2021, Cheryl? Did I understand that correctly?
It's two separate things affecting that line. There's the land use secretary's cell phone, which
Right.
were new expenses. And
Okay.
then separately, there were expenses encumbered from 2020. And that was the land use had some December expenses that were encumbered for 2020. So that was what is in that line.
So I'm confused because if they were encumbered and incurred in 2020, why are they not showing in 2020's financial statement, but instead showing in 2021?
Because when funds are encumbered at the end of the year, they basically, the funds are basically added to the following year's budget. So, because we're going to actually expend the funds in 2021. So when we end up after town meeting and have an actual approved budget, the budget will be increased by the amount of the encumbrances from the prior year. And then when the expenses are occurred in 2021, that's when we show the actual expense.
Seems to me that's different from before, but I'll have to think on that. Betsy, you had a question? Thank you.
If they were encumbered against 2020, doesn't matter when you pay them, they should charge back against 2020 in that software.
No.
If they
No.
were encumbered.
They were encumbered at the end of 2020.
Yeah.
But we don't show it as an expense until we actually pay for them.
Yeah.
Right, but it should track back to 2020 on that report.
In other words, you don't have accurate numbers of what was spent in 2020 if you're paying for part of it in 2021.
Right.
The
You know what I
auditor,
mean?
yeah, you want to see in 2020, you want to see the total that we expended and know we're going to expend, basically in encumbrances. But the way the auditors take the expenditures at the end of a year is you basically use that amount to increase your budget for the following year because you have that authority through the expenditures to spend that money in the following year.
She's actually doing it the exact way businesses do it. The money's accounted for the previous year, but then transferred to the following year because it wasn't actually expended in 2020. And then as the bills bill in, it zeroes out.
But Paul, that's not how it's done with municipal.
Right,
Madam
there is
Chair.
a difference.
Madam Chair,
Yes, I'm sorry, Linda, go
That's-
ahead.
the way Cheryl is describing it is how it has been being done in Northwood previously. Even with the former finance administrator that was here for many, many years, it was handled exactly the same way.
Okay. Maybe we just didn't encumber very many things in the past, and that's why it seems strange to me.
Right, I think everything that was previously, everything that was going to be encumbered was on a list on December 31 and nothing was added to it from that day forward.
Right. Okay. All right. We'll move on rather than go over this forever because I'm still confused a little bit. Anything else on page 6? Okay, seeing nobody's hands. Page 7.
All right, page 7.
What might be a little faster, Pam, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. What might be a little faster is if we, because I know everybody's time is short. If we just go by the page and if anybody has a question about anything, the notes that Cheryl provided are really, really helpful.
I think they're outstanding.
Yeah,
And,
so if we just go page by
we-
page and ask if anyone's got any questions, and then you can enlighten us if we do.
So
That
as we
one
send
page
kudos-
6.
As we send kudos out to the world, send kudos out to those that are fabulous town workers. They're doing
Okay,
wonderful.
Betsy, you said you had another one on page 6?
Yeah, bottom of page 6, the land use secretary cell phones being paid for. That's new.
According to what I could see in the records, that was a new, I don't know if it was a new phone for that position or if this was because of the Zoom meetings, that I can't answer. But that was a new charge, the cell phone.
Can you look into that and get back to us on that? Because why would we be paying for?
It's
a
not my
cell
personal
phone
cell
that's not a
phone. It's the
department
cell
head?
phone that I use to return. I use it to return calls when I get phone calls instead of using my personal cell phone.
So it's the
Okay.
official one, like for the
So
meeting.
the
if we get
question-
phone calls at the meeting.
My question to that is, I thought the new phone system, those working from home could take the phone home with them. It connected to the computer and then they could return the phone calls on
Nope.
that.
Only if you have Atlantic broadband, and I don't. So it didn't work at my house. I tried, but it doesn't work.
Okay,
Right. There are cases where we have staff that have to have a cell phone.
right. Okay, thanks, Susan.
Yep.
Any other questions on page 6? Okay, going on. Anyone have questions on page 7?
Page 7, I particularly love the squirrel issue.
Well, set with that, or you want me to explain that one?
No,
Pardon?
I just
Okay.
wanted how you itemize a squirrel. It would
I
rejoice.
gathered that we had, well, I remember seeing the damage that the squirrels had done down there when we had a meeting, so.
So it was fixing the damage, or was it getting rid of the squirrel?
D, all of the above?
Yeah, all the
Okay.
above. Betsy?
Wildland comes in and they put a trap up there so they can only go out and not come back in. And then that's up for a couple of weeks and then they cover it over so that they're out and hopefully that's the end of them. So
Okay, thank you. So
Anybody
it's
have
one
any
more-
other questions on page 7? Okay, moving on to page 8. Any questions at all on page 8? It's only the first quarter, so it's,
line item of the previous page, and there is nothing else on that page. Going into the police commission, which will conclude down.
which is page 9.
Yeah. 8 into 9, police commission, and there you have a encumbrance on legal, which you're also going to see in several other departments, encumbrances on legal. Police department. Police department 2 has got pretty standard expenditures. Overtime cost and insurance cost are changed over to that line not overtime costs are regular salary, but the insurance costs are all bumped up to line 41552 as already
Right.
discussed.
Anybody have any questions on 9? Okay, seeing none, page 10. Okay, moving along. How about page 11? Okay, I do have a question on page 11, the electricity for the fire, as well as the heating. That's the 410 and 411 lines, where it appears as though they're almost double on both, and I find that a little strange since we only have one station this year, and last year we were working with 2. So I'm confused as to why, if we're down a station, why the costs close to doubled in those 2 lines. So perhaps we can check that out.
Well, in 2020, when this report was run, 2020 column includes only January and February expenses. March expenses, I am assuming, went into April in 2020, were paid in April. But in 2021's column, it includes January, February, and March. So there's 3 months of payments versus 2 months of payments.
Boy, they really were messed up last year.
Oh, yes.
Okay, well, we'll see how it works out when we get the full year in there, and then we're not comparing just certain months and whatever. Anyone have any other questions on page 11? Okay, page 12. Betsy.
Down near the bottom, up about a third, medical services. I see it's been renamed. Okay,
Oh,
this
yeah.
is the one I brought up at budget committee time
Right.
to get rid of it totally because it's back to the 1980s and 90s when we did the hepatitis shots.
Right.
It hasn't been used since, so it shouldn't have been renamed Municipal Safety Committee. It was originally for the hepatitis shots for fire and police people, and it needs to go away. But I see it's been renamed. I don't want to create a new section that really shouldn't exist.
Walter, do you have any insight into why that got renamed or what the intention for that line is?
No, I don't recall right off the top of my head.
Okay.
But I'll discuss it with Cheryl, and it's an internal correction that we can make if necessary.
Yeah, there's no need for it anymore.
Okay. Building code. Anything else there on 12?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. I don't know if anyone knows off the top of their head, but we've got $9,800 in vehicle maintenance, the line 660
The repair.
for engine one.
Engine one,
Anybody
yeah.
recall what those repairs were? Well, perhaps we can check that out.
Yeah, we've had a number of repairs. This first quarter on a couple of the vehicles, including pump issues, and I think the other one has to do with the exhaust system.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that for another time. So thank you, Walter. Anybody else have questions on page 12? Betsy?
An echo going on. Can we eliminate that?
Mike, if you're in on computer, you can hang up your phone.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Okay. I think that's what our echo is.
All right, so we're good
Yeah,
on
better.
12.
Looks like we're good on 12, so going on to 13.
You got building software. Anyone?
Any questions on page 13? Okay, seeing none. How about page 14?
Once again, these lines that Cheryl has typed in, the explanations are awful helpful.
Oh, absolutely.
So you got things like the back.
So see, this is an example of how the explanation would be helpful on the previous page for the fire repairs. Looking at maintenance and repairs for the trucks, the 630 line is an increase due to the purchase of backhoe tires. Well, that makes sense. So at least we know what the repair was or what needed to be done. Any other questions from anyone on page 14? Okay, seeing none. Page 15.
way down, your big change, your staffing, additional employees over 2020 staffing, that's way down in sanitation. Snow and ice contracted services up a bit there. And snow, ice, sand down. So
Any questions at all? Okay, moving on to page 16.
Can I ask what's the digging going on at the entrance to the transfer station?
Yeah,
That's a drainage ditch maintenance claim. They're just cleaning out that drainage ditch. It's been filled up over the years and now it's not holding enough water. The water started running over the road this winter.
ah, okay.
Who knew there was drainage ditch?
I knew there was a lot of water back there, always has been, but
That was the problem, Tom. It was pretty much gone away.
yeah. Okay, great. Any other questions on page 16? Okay, moving on to page 17.
17.
I'm not seeing any hands. Let's go on to page 18 then.
Yeah, let's, not a lot to pause on page 18. Animal control is your only number, and that was from the previous page.
Right. And of course, the community support agencies, they haven't indicated yet what they would like
Right. And
for
that
this year, so that won't happen until late summer.
yeah, later in the year.
Right. Okay, if there's no questions on page 18, we can go on to page 19.
Again, you're seeing
Betsy?
some of the impact of COVID.
Is there an update on the rec director? Is that being filled, still in process, or where's that at?
Walter, perhaps, are you ready to give an update?
Yes, we actually have extended a conditional offer to a candidate and we're waiting for final background and so forth to be completed, and hopefully we'll be able to confirm within the next couple of weeks.
So is that part-time or full-time?
We're only offering part-time at this point in time, and then if the budget is approved, which includes funding for the full-time position, then the person is prepared to be full-time.
Okay. Any other questions on page 19?
Good question. Thank you, Walter.
Okay, page 20. I don't see any hands, so let's go to page 21. Betsy?
I have more of a comment that I'm kind of surprised to see the large encumbrance under books and periodicals in the library, which is like the fifth line down from the top, where we haven't even voted a budget yet.
Madam Chair, I think.
Yes, Mr. McNally.
I think the library people have total control over the budget and they just tell us what they want. We have to pay it. That was a law back a
Yeah.
long time ago.
It's like the police commission governing the police expenditures and whatever. I'm just thinking ahead, even if the default budget is what's approved, if the budget is overspent because of too much money for, what was it, books and periodicals, then they'll have to find it somewhere else in their department budget. That's all. Any other questions on page 21? Okay, going on to page 22.
Pretty page, huh?
Well, except for the bottom line.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
we're
bottom line.
$160,000 over budget compared to last year, which is the default budget in the first quarter. What if you get the default budget? Do you have a plan?
No, there isn't
Hold
that.
on.
If you take the 860, Paul, and subtract the 703 that was spent for the same period last year,
That's 160,000.
right. But there are additional expenses this year as compared to
No,
last
that's not my
year.
point. That's not my point. If you
Okay,
get the
I'm
default
sorry,
budget
your
again,
point?
if you get the default budget again,
Yeah,
then you're gonna be $160,000 over budget through the first
Paul?
quarter.
Paul, if I remember what Cheryl had said, the first line is 2 months as opposed to the line for this year, which is 3 months. Because
So
much
the,
of
what says 1/1/20 to 3/31/20 is
Is-
actually
is
only 2
only
months.
2 months.
On some of the lines, not all of the lines, Bob, but some of
Yeah.
them, yes.
That's helpful. How do I compare anything?
well,
Um,
we'll have a better picture of it when we get our next financial statement, because it will have the full year in it as compared, and then we can compare the full year to what's been spent so far, wherever in the year we are. You know, at 6 months, did we spend half of it? Did we spend more than half? Did we spend only a third of it? But it's
And-
very difficult to see compared this year to last year when we don't have last year's full year figures in, particularly with the lines that are only 2 months worth of value versus 3 months worth of value.
And you've also, Paul, got the notation on the following page, which gives you a more breakout on that explanation of at least 103 of that, resulting in timing of payments, mutual aid, auditing, software, and the new benefited positions in highway and tax. So that's where a lot of that is accounted
yeah,
for.
but that doesn't help us if we get a default budget. Those are real expenses that you have to pay.
They are real
True.
expenses. You are
But if they get if the default budget passes, Paul, as opposed to the proposed budget, that just means that whatever has been spent so far has been spent so far, and they could have far less to spend for the next 9 months, or actually for the following 6 months, since by the time we get the budget, we'll be into June.
Well, I mean, that was my question, I guess. Is anyone even thinking about what happens if they get a default budget?
absolutely
hope.
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
First and foremost in the mind that you've got this going on since what, 2018, 2019, 2020, plus COVID pandemic and all of that funding. It is first and foremost, how do you make bricks without straw, and to try to move on. So it is definitely consideration.
Betsy.
Next up,
So, like I said, with the school, anytime we ask for an expenditure report, we automatically also want a revenue report. So could that be sent to us because we did not get that?
revenue, I did the quarterly report was from the last board meeting. I don't have, my copy is within my packet, but we can get that to you.
That would be great if it could be, sent to us.
apologize. Yes, we will get that to you. So you wish the revenue report for what period? The quarter, or you want?
The quarter, the same as the expenditure report when we do these, when we do quarterly meetings. Yep.
And you want it for the entire of?
We want the
2020?
left column to be the entire year.
On both
and then-
revenue and expenditure.
Then the quarterly, understanding that you won't have this year's figures to put in there yet.
Okay, gotcha.
Adopted.
We
And
can
I'll
do that.
touch base with Cheryl and Walter on all of that, the revenue report as well, because I anticipate we'll be meeting shortly, and we can go over those things.
Now, on the audit, are you ready?
I think I want to skip the audit for the moment and take a look at the 2020 year end.
Okay, expenditure.
And I'm gonna start right off because I've got a major question here.
You want to know where the trucks are?
No, well, I do want to know that, but before I even get to where the trucks are,
I'm ready for the truck question.
I certainly hope so.
I got
The on the 2020 end of year, I had pulled the end of year report that was printed on January 4th, which I knew would not have all of 2020 expenses posted yet, because there'd be payrolls that might lap over and electric bills that might not be received, etc. But the remaining amount on the January 4th financial statement had a remaining balance of $510,259. Now, looking at this report dated April 8th, I'm seeing $260,800, basically $835. That's a difference of almost $250,000. And as I had asked when I first requested materials for tonight's meeting for us, a detail as to what items were being encumbered from surplus and the lines that they were being applied to. And I'm not seeing, we haven't seen that, but I certainly cannot find either of the vehicles that the selectmen decided to purchase out of surplus. So, Pam, if you can explain to me where those are applied, I would deeply appreciate it.
I gotta find my paper here. So, yeah, you said you could not find the items anywhere.
Nope.
Hold on 1 second. So, all right, you know they are encumbered, and you should have encumbrances and itemization on the fire and the pickup, and you have the other encumbrances down through for land use and all of that. So you have that. So Cheryl has already mentioned it, and I went over it with Walter too. So both items are included in the encumbrances, which are voted on by the board in the case of the trucks on December 29th, when the encumbrances went through. So the funds get carried forward into 2021 because the vehicles didn't come in until sometime in early January. So the funds get added to the 2021 budget once it's finally approved and at voting day, and then the expenses become 2021 expenses paid with 2020 funds because they're encumbered on 2020. So we already kind of had this discussion, and Linda said that this is the way it's being done. Was it Paul perhaps that talked about this is a business recording of expenditures versus encumbrances?
But you still show the accrual or the encumbrance, depending on what you want to talk about in 2020, which
So
it
the
doesn't show up
encumbrance-
anywhere in the 2020 budget.
Exactly. It should show as an encumbrance.
Absolutely.
So I will let Cheryl take that one.
I think you're confusing a couple of terms too. Basically, the encumbrances are basically what they consider carry forwards. So you're carrying forward into the next fiscal year. Unlike when you encumber a particular budget item because you know you're going to expense that sometime during the fiscal year before it's over. So what we're doing here at the end of the year is you carry that funding over from 2020 over to 2021. And then it becomes, as Cheryl mentioned, it becomes a 2021 expense.
And then why are those two vehicles in particular not showing up in the departments as expenditures in the
Because-
2021 report? They show up nowhere. They're not in 2020. They're not in 2021.
Well, they're not in the operating budget because they're not operating expenses. I think Cheryl provided the detail and the accounts on the expenditures for the trucks.
But the selectmen are taking the money to buy those vehicles and whatever out of surplus funds, which is surplus in the operating budget.
Operating budget.
2020.
It's not surplus, it's unexpended funds. Unexpended
Same
2020.
thing.
Same thing for our purposes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's a matter of semantics. It's money that was approved in 2020. You've got somewhere between $510 and $260,000 left. And out of that, 100 and something was being utilized to buy those two vehicles, among other things. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it needs to show up somewhere as an expenditure because you have expended operating funds for those items.
It does, and it will in 2021.
Why doesn't it now?
It does.
It does show up in
Where?
2021, but not in the operating budget. In part of a section of the chart of accounts that is not included in the general operating budget are capital expenditures. And that's where those expenses are showing up. Those are the two lines that I gave you that those trucks were
But
charged to.
they shouldn't be. As far as the MS-37 is concerned, yeah, they're capital expenses as opposed to buying office supplies. And depreciation and all of that gets taken into account. But as far as expenditures, there are some pretty savvy voters that are going to be looking at all of these figures, not just us, and are going to say, well, you spent $110,000 on two vehicles. Where did it come from?
It should be in this 2020 report is encumbered.
It should be. That's
The
what
highway truck was voted to take from the budget much earlier than the other one was. 'Cause
Yeah,
the
in
other
fact,
one
I
was
have the complete
originally
timeline.
a warrant article. That's the one Mike questioned where it disappeared to.
And at that night, we only were informed about the command vehicle. We were not informed about the highway truck that had previously been approved and purchased. I have an issue with that, but that's something I will take up with the selectmen at another time.
So on the, Ginger, on the listing of the wish list one, we only got the highway one on here. You asked for an itemized listing of
Yep.
everything on those two vehicles. We did not get that.
Correct.
Yeah, it's on the next page
No.
of the packet.
What's not?
I got it. It's
It is
under-
incumbent in
We
the
don't have
office.
It was in
Yeah, it is.
the supplemental thing that Linda sent out or whatever, the 11 pages.
That's the audit management letter. That's different.
Yeah,
No,
should
it
do
was
that.
directly behind that, Betsy.
and
You
then
have a
we
trial
have-
balance for both of those accounts.
However, we had specifically requested, or I had specifically requested for the budget committee, detailed expenditures for the command vehicle. What was the cost of the vehicle? What was the cost of the light bar? What was the cost of the slide-in insert we were told was going to be purchased? What was the cost of the cap? What was cost of the radio? These are all things that had been discussed when we were looking at a warrant article. I asked for that detailed breakdown. We did not get it. I asked for the same thing for the highway truck. How much was the truck? How much was the plow? How much was the insert for the sander and the sander itself? That's breakdown we did not get.
Well, I'm sorry, because we put it in the packet. You should have the trial balance for both of those
Yeah.
budgetary accounts.
I do. It's on page 3.
We've never seen a trial balance before, but then again, we've never purchased vehicles without it going to the voters. That's
Okay,
it.
can I clarify something?
Please
Ginger?
do.
We didn't have that initially. That was the management letter that we had to ask separately for. So we did not get it as part of the packet. It shows up in the management letter, but that's not the same thing. 40,000 even for the command vehicle isn't what was spent on it. We asked for the itemized listing, and I'm sure it doesn't come out to a round number.
No, it was
Yeah, Linda
43
sent
and
it out.
change.
Linda sent it out as additional, it's an email with an attachment, additional requested info. It was about 11-page print, and
That's
Yeah,
the
that
management
was
letter,
the,
Pam.
pardon me?
That's the management letter. That's separate.
The management letter was only 4 pages.
I printed one out today that was 11.
Because as we went through December, these numbers changed and they changed into January. So all Ginger asked for was what are the total figures for each of those 2 vehicles broken down by originally, remember Mark had put this out, the 3 vehicles and the choices. And it's all itemized by the cap, the graphics, the light bar.
That was included in the package. I don't know what happened to it after we
It
provided.
wasn't in this package. I pulled this from something I had in December.
right.
This is
Because
from Linda.
we'd received a list of what he was proposing in December
Yeah.
that we were utilizing when we were determining whether we would recommend the warrant article. As it turned out, we did not recommend the warrant article.
Madam Chair, that information was in the copies that were mailed to the Budget Committee. And some of you requested printed copies,
Right.
and that information is in there.
Right, what we've got is
Linda-
from the operating budget. This is dated December
Excuse me,
29th.
Madam Chairman,
Yes,
if you
Paul.
open up Linda's email, it starts off with the letter the Board of Selectmen shared you from the auditors.
Right,
And those 4 pages are the auditor's letter. And then page 5 is the list of encumbrances and
Yep.
your continuing appropriations.
That's
Page 6,
encumbrances. That's not
encumbrances.
expenditures.
page
Well,
7
it is expenditures.
itemization.
No, it's not.
So the
Well-
fire truck command vehicle is on page 7 is the itemization. Cargo organizer, the whole bit, and page 8 is simply the truck with the plow and sander included. That was part of the deal. And then it goes into all of the other vouchers. So those 2, the truck and the command vehicle, were there on page 7 and 8. This was like a 24-page document.
Right.
Just
Madam
box
Chair,
on
there
it.
Yes,
seems to be
who's
a lot of
speaking?
confusion here, and
Dan,
it's not getting us anywhere at this point in time.
I totally agree.
So I think if we take a step back and decide to look at this, not this second, we could probably come to a better decision.
Wise words, Dan.
Thank you,
Betsy?
Dan.
So when they mail us out the revenue statement, they can mail us out the breakdown for these 2 vehicles on a separate piece of paper so that we can see it, please.
Well, we do, the trial balance, Betsy, does show it. However, under highway capital outlay, it just gives one total amount of $52,445 for the truck with plow and sander. We requested, how much is the truck? How much is the plow? How much is the sander? As far as the fire command vehicle, there's nothing here for the cap, but the cap has been purchased. There's nothing here for the light bar. And I understand there's all kinds of expenses going on with the light bar based on the last selectmen's meeting. And there's nothing here for the radio. Walter, I'm sorry, did you have your hand up?
I was just going to clarify, the truck, the plow, the sander was bought as a package. Okay, so that's why it was paid for as a package from the same vendor. And the the cap was included in the price of the vehicle. So that's why it's not itemized separately.
That's information that would be helpful to know when the chief gave us the first listing of what he wanted, when we were reviewing it for the warrant, and it was separate. It
Well,
wasn't
that's
a
the-
truck with a
You got two
cap was
different
X
things.
dollars.
That's the way the vendor billed us. So that's the way we paid him.
And
We
that's
didn't-
fine. And you weren't here at the time to know what had been given to the budget committee prior to, during our budget season. And that's what we're comparing it to. At least that's what I'm comparing it to. Betsy.
You and Walter are talking about two different vehicles. You're talking about the command vehicle. He's talking about the highway one. The highway was a package one.
Right, and we were just talking about the cap was evidently part of the fire command package.
Yeah, you're talking two different things here.
All right. Suffice it to say that there's an awful lot of confusion, folks, which isn't going to make issues easier.
So is it safe to ask for how did they go from the $510,000 left over down to the 200 and what was it, 60?
260. I would love to know the answer to that.
That would be a question I'd like to find the answer to.
Perhaps.
Madam
Ted.
Chair.
Yes, Ted.
Thank you. I like Dan's suggestion to take a step back. I'd like to make a brief comment about audits in general and the fact that, in my opinion, this town has made enormous progress in the last few months because of Cheryl and because of Walter. I am eternally grateful to them. There's been a sequence of series of management letters that have become somewhat controversial in the last 2 or 3 years, in my opinion, only because they implicated the process and the procedure and the lack thereof in the town building. Fortunately, so far as I can tell, there has not been anything like a serious overage of spending. Nobody has absconded with money. The problem is the town didn't know. Now, we know we've gone through all sorts of changes. One of the things that this most recent management letter calls out over and over again with their repeat announcements to the board, you need to have process, you need to have a procedure, you need to have a financial person, you need supervision. Fortunately, a lot of that has happened. And so that is a really good place to be. I will say, sort of editorially, I still feel kind of vulnerable from the Board of Selectmen. We had some really wacko boards in the last few years that made really poor decisions. And here we are, things are getting much better. We're really lucky to have Walter and Cheryl on board. But if we get some peculiar change on the Board of Selectmen, who knows what will happen then? So I'm glad that we're getting better. I'm not so worried about the individual numbers and how they are reported. I'm sure we'll get the information that we need. So I want to thank the staff that we have.
Thank you, Ted.
Ted.
Paul, did you have something?
Well, I really would just like one number. Prior to opening up the toy box and at the end of December to spend surplus dollars, what was the surplus?
Yeah, there's a big discrepancy there, and I tried looking for it and I couldn't figure it out.
So,
Betsy, did you have something?
We'll get back to you on that.
Hey,
I don't have the documents you're referring to, Ginger, so I can't tell you. And I don't
I'll
think.
bring them in when I come in and meet with you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Show you what it is I'm referring to. That'll probably help.
That would be a big help. Thank you.
Sure. Betsy?
We're all grateful for Walter and Cheryl. They've done an excellent job. I think the problem here is the gap in between and some things that we didn't follow through that we just need answers to now. And if we don't ask it, I'm sure somebody deliberative will. So.
Yep.
So Madam Chair,
Yes, Pam.
can we go on to the audit, please?
Sure.
I got 17 hours of training, so I gotta do my spiel.
Well, I was going to ask if, just as we did with the school, if people have had an opportunity, obviously Ted has because he referred to it, but if others have not had an opportunity to review the audit management letter, do we want to not go over it this evening, take the opportunity to review it? I mean, it is what it is. It's done. And bring up any issues, any questions we might have when we meet again.
I'm fine with that.
I am too. There were two things that I wanted to bring up that is just boilerplate for Walter and Cheryl,
Okay.
so that they don't end up being continued on to the next auditor's report. This is for 2019 fiscal year. And in page 13, it says it's a 3-member board. At that point in time, it was already a 5-member board.
Right.
And another piece of, again, boilerplate had to do with the ambulance replacement fund, where it specifically refers to ambulance replacement. And that had been changed in 2019 as well.
Mhm.
And that's on page 15. So 2 things that the auditors had put in that need not be carried forward into next year's or this coming year's audit.
So Ginger,
Yes, Betsy. Thank you, Bob.
is it safe to ask Walter, would the 2020 audit be done before our next meeting? And if so, maybe that will answer some of the questions and we can do both together at the next meeting.
Yes, it's basically being done. It's being reviewed by the senior auditors now, and we expect to have it probably within a few weeks. So it should be ready by the end of next quarter, or this quarter, actually.
I would suggest we just do both together at the next meeting.
Agree.
That makes sense. Does
Okay.
anyone else have thoughts about that? Okay, there it is. Thought I'd lost my agenda for a minute with all my papers that I'm shuffling around here.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Pam.
you have on your agenda any potential financial issues we should be made aware of. I only have one brief comment on that.
Sure.
Our statement would be we hard to answer that question until we have a budget to work with. However, important to note that we've seen several large unexpected vehicle repair expenses so far this year that could very well have impact. So that if the default budget is approved, so it's mostly right now what's catching us is those vehicle repairs.
Okay.
So that would be all I would have to note on that.
All right, does anyone have any other questions?
I just have one closing comment, I guess, on that statement is, could we have for the next meeting a list of those vehicle repairs and the year and make of those vehicles so that we know, we've spent a lot of money on vehicles. Are they being properly maintained? And do we have a problem with our routine maintenance? And it's giving us problems with big repair bills. I mean, if these are old vehicles, it's one thing. If they're vehicles we've bought over the last couple of years, then there might be other questions.
That would be helpful if we could get that. Would eliminate some questions. Betty, did you have your hand up?
Nope, I'm trying to hold my head up.
I understand. Well, before we go anywhere, we need to set a date for our next quarterly meeting. So I'm proposing the 5th Thursday in July, because the school's end of year is June 30th. The second quarter end for the town is June 30th. If we meet on July 29th with all materials mailed, ideally from the post office so that they stay in Northwood instead of being sent to Manchester to come back to Northwood.
Not doing that anymore. I asked at the post
On
office.
occasion,
Oh, there.
I'll tell you, I got a
Oh,
couple of
there.
calls
I
because the
mail them
materials
from the
we
post
received,
office.
the materials we received this time from the town were late.
Okay, well, I didn't mail them this time.
I know. I know. Unfortunately, our policy, our internal procedures say if we don't receive them 7 days in advance, we don't work on them, but we worked on them anyway, this one time. So if we set a date for July 29th for our next quarterly meeting, which will also be our reorganization meeting since elections are being held in June, everything
What day
needs
of
to
the
be
week is
mailed
that?
ideally on Friday, July 16th, or at the very latest, Monday, July 19th, so that we receive them in time for us to review them.
The post office in town.
Right.
What day of the week is the meeting, the 29th?
A Thursday. There are 5 Thursdays in July, so there isn't a conflict with another committee.
Okay.
Unless the planning board decides that they want to move their meeting to the last Thursday. No, we got it.
Got
It's
it
a budget
first.
meeting.
Okay, can I throw a little bit of a monkey wrench into things?
Better not be big, I'll throw it back.
It's
What you got?
only that I am close enough that I will pick up my materials if they will let me know. I was going through a bunch of paperwork today and looking at the postage on those envelopes. It's incredible.
Yeah, agreed.
So I will pick mine up. I already talked to Susan about it earlier.
Okay, I'm going to interject if I could.
Please, Linda, go ahead.
Your procedures say that we must mail them through the postal service. If you want to change that, you should change your procedures, please.
We've always mailed them. The question is where they get mailed and how they get handled. If they're taken to the Northwood Post Office, since we live in Northwood, and we tell the postmaster that they stay in town, they won't be shipped to Manchester to be postmarked and then come back to Northwood.
We understand that.
That's the only point I'm making.
But that throws my idea in the...
If anyone would like to pick them up, Linda, is it a problem if someone would like to pick up the packets if they contacted you and said,
I would prefer you change your procedures
Yes.
to allow that that if someone wants to pick them up, otherwise we're amending procedures without it being followed through.
Lynn
And
is
staff
correct.
is
We
accountable.
always have to make a change to make that happen. If Betty wants to do that, we have to vote right now that says we're going to change it all together. You want to do that tonight?
we'll let the postage go through this time and possibly take that up on procedures during our reorganization in July.
Sorry, I thought I was doing a good thing.
Well, saving money is a good thing till it conflicts with policies and procedures, I guess. Betsy.
I'm not saying I would, that it isn't a good idea. I'm just saying that staff is responsible to follow the procedures set forth by the committee. And we have been tasked with mailing them. So if you would like an option to either have them mailed or you can notify us that certain people, if they want to pick them up. We had the opposite problem in the past where it ended up that they were being delivered by the chair, and then some people were not happy with that, and not every elected chair wants to drive around Northwood knocking on doors and dodging barking dogs and such. So certainly it could be amended, and what I can do is mail out your current procedures and put that as a topic on your agenda for next time.
I think that's an excellent idea, Linda. If you could do that, that would be great.
Will do.
Betsy.
Remember when we had the subcommittee and reviewed those? We put that back in because of that problem that Linda just talked about, that they would be mailed instead of people delivering them and stuff.
Yeah, Tom, you were on that subcommittee. It was you and Betsy and Bunny at the time, wasn't it?
Yes, as I remember, and I think relying on the Postal Service, even though it may cost an extra $1 or $2, is a whole lot better than trying to deliver things in a more convoluted way.
Or picking them up with limited hours that the hall is open. So, all right, let's do that. We'll review the procedures, see what changes anybody proposes to make, and during our reorganization portion, we can address those issues at that time. Sound like a plan?
Yep.
Yes.
Betsy?
Want to think about the subcommittee getting together and going through them ahead of time, save some time that night or not?
We'd have to appoint another subcommittee. At this point, to be honest with you, my brain is fried. So I think if we just do our research beforehand when we get them, that will be helpful. Mike, did you have something
Madam
you'd like
Chair.
to add?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you did. Ted, did you have something?
I do. I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. I'm assuming nobody's got a problem with the date of July 29th, because that's where it's at this point. So,
7 p.m., right? Like normal?
yep. So roll call to adjourn at 9:17. Betsy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Dan?
Yep.
Mike Moore?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mike Jobin?
Yes.
And I am a yes. We are adjourned, folks. Have a good weekend coming up.
Good seeing y'all. Be
Good
safe.
night, all.
Yep.
Thank
Take
you.
care, guys.